Sparking from a question from the community, the WoW Classic senior producer has just released this huge blue post outlining some of the really exciting key changes coming to Classic Season of Discovery, including new lore, new zones, and new PvP events, and more. Let's jump into it and see what he had to say. So, as I said, this is from the WoW Classic senior producer Josh Greenfield after the Community Council live chat on December 8th. Now, one of the questions coming from a member of the community, Majin Storm, was that previously there was talk about picking up storylines that might lead to dead ends. Will the story of SOD explore alternative storylines from other titles in the Warcraft franchise similar to Hearthstone? Now, me personally, as a player of Season of Discovery, I have been really excited and hopeful for the expansion of the World of Warcraft lore that we experience in Classic. We all know that places like Karazhan, like the Deadwind Pass, the Scarlet Crusade, etc., and many more, there are a lot of unfinished business happening both on the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor. And are they really going to expand on this, given they've got the opportunity here with Season of Discovery? Let's see what he had to say on this one. So early on in the Season of Discovery development, we met with Chris Metzen to talk about the narrative in the season. In that meeting, we mutually agreed not to treat Season of Discovery as any sort of alternate history for World of Warcraft. Big stinking thumbs down for that one. The term that Chris used to describe our narrative approach is found photographs. TLDR, what he says in the next few paragraphs is basically, you know, if you're going through an old family album and you see that your parents went to Italy one time and you're like, oh, this is a nice picture of you, mom and dad. Well, basically that's what they're saying. So my interpretation of this is that there could be Easter eggs in the way that we're seeing some of the quests coming in for discovering runes in Season of Discovery. Maybe they're going to put in more Easter egg kind of things like this, maybe some lore books and other kind of trinkets to keep us appeased throughout the seasons. Now, am I happy with this? Absolutely not. What I didn't want in Season of Discovery was for them to go absolutely ham on, you know, some random storyline that we didn't want. But going further down the line with things like the Scarlet Crusade could be a really, really fantastic step in the right direction that isn't actually going to change the future lore, but could be things that are done alongside it. What do I mean by that? Well, put it this way. Obviously, after Classic, we went through the Burning Crusade, the Dark Portal, but what was still happening back on Azeroth with, again, I keep going back to this one, things like the Scarlet Crusade, maybe the Scourge in the Eastern Kingdoms, you know, what's happening up in the Ghostlands, etc. There could be, you know, simpler things that don't fundamentally change the future lore, but actually are things that are still happening back home on Azeroth. And I think they're really missing out by skipping over this opportunity. It could have been huge. I do think it's a big opportunity for them, however, to be absolutely bone idle and lazy with the content they're going to be putting out for Season of Discovery and beyond. The next question then is, players often gather around runes. Will future runes have multiple sources, and will the sources be added? Do current runes have undiscovered sources? He then replied, we did allow many runes to have multiple sources in the lower level areas, simply because travel is more restrictive and difficult when you're at lower level. As far as higher level runes go, we don't have specific plans to add multiple discoveries, but we do want to acknowledge that some runes were frustrating for the Horde side, as there was a somewhat disproportionate number of discoveries in the Eastern Kingdoms. So basically, future runes, they're guaranteeing pretty much, is saying that each rune that we get in the later phases are only going to have one discovery each. Overall, I think I'm pretty happy with this, but on the same side, it does open a bit of a can of worms on the question around, what about the races? You know, are you saying then that one rune only has one distinct discoverable place, and that is that? There is also the question around PvP, and that is answered in here, where they do want to encourage PvP beyond the between the factions, you know, in kind of highly sought after mutual zones like Ashenvale. I'm not saying that they're saying that it's going to be focused around places like Stranglethorn Vale, which we know are going to be a big PvP hub in the new phase. More on that shortly, however, but maybe other places, you know, in the Eastern Kingdoms or Kalimdor, where a lot of people are accumulating between the different factions. They are also saying that they are going to then keep in mind how much travel each faction have to do to get to these runes, because they are aware that certain factions are actually having to go an extraordinarily long way, opposed to, say, the Alliance. You dirty dogs. On the next question then, he asked, what are the team's priorities for the future given the positive reception SOD has received? Do you have any plans you can share? First off, we want to say how thrilled we are, blah, blah, blah. We took a lot of chances this season and are relieved it was as well received or better than we'd hoped. I think we can all agree on that. Season of Discovery is a really fresh addition to Classic, and I think we're all thoroughly enjoying it and the changes they've made. Of course, it's not perfect. One of the things personally that I think they should have added was like more graveyards. Maybe that is an unpopular opinion. I don't know. Let me know in the comments, because I don't want to keep running for 10,000 miles to get back to my body every time I die at the top of the Barrens, coming all the way back from the Crossroads. Is adding more things like that really going to ruin the experience of Classic? Absolutely not. Is it going to be a bit more quality of life? Absolutely yes. And I think that is where Classic Plus needs to go in a direction itself. I even think that adding the group finder would be a fantastic thing, meaning that, you know, dungeons, etc. are going to be so much easier to group up for, probably in like the way that Mythic Plus works at the moment, where you have to personally pick people. Is that an unpopular opinion? Again, I'm not sure. Let me know. But I think more quality of life things like that could be added, and that in the future phases, they have a really good opportunity to do this. They have said that for future plans, it's hard to say too much about spoiling things, but they want to take some of the lessons they've learned. I mentioned Rune Discovery locations above, but we've also learned a lot from the Ashen Vale PvP event and how it interacts with layers and those frustration. They have said that the PvP level 40 event in Strangleform is going to be dramatically different from Ashen Vale. And they've also learned lessons from the Merchant faction and Waylaid Supplies reputation process, and they have said they're overall pleased with how that played out and the length and difficulty of gaining honor, which personally, from everything I've been hearing from you guys, we're not liking. So either they are quite disconnected and out of touch here, or they're looking at opinions I'm not seeing. But then I don't have a crystal ball and I haven't seen everything. There is one thing I wish they had have covered, and that is of course the huge botting issue in WoW Classic at the moment. I know they've been closing an absolute gargantuan ton of bot accounts, but the question is it really enough? Hopefully a lot of these questions that we are asking will be answered soon. Let me know your thoughts on the upcoming changes and how you're getting on with Season of Discovery. Click that subscribe button, leave a thumbs up, and if you want to talk more about it, then of course you can join my Discord, where we have a lot of other WoW retail and Classic Season of Discovery players.